Let's talk about why the Temple of Dendur was eventually moved to New York City. I've honestly loved working on this project because I found so many great photos and then also paintings and drawings of what the temple looked like originally. So here's one of the images of looking through the separate gateway that's kind of not attached but attached to the temple. This is looking out at the original view it would have had of the Nile River. In 1933, the Aswan Low Dam was increased in height, which caused the temple complex to be underwater for almost 9 months out of the year. During this time, all traces of any paint on the temple faded away. Then in 1960, the Egyptian government started building the Aswan High Dam to control the late summer flooding that the ancient Egyptians absolutely needed and loved, but for the modern Egyptians, it was becoming more of a nuisance. Because of this dam, an enormously large lake, which is now called Lake Nasser, was going to form behind the dam. This lake was predicted to submerge dozens of ancient Egyptian and Nubian sites, along with some modern settlements. Essentially, UNESCO started the international campaign to save the monuments of Nubia, which included the Temple of Dendur. 50 countries joined the effort, providing equipment, expertise, and mostly money. There are tons of sites that I can talk about with this project, but let's focus on the Temple of Dendur. First, Egyptologists, photographers, and architects documented this temple for 2 full years. Then, the temple was dismantled and moved from its original location. Then, in 1965, Egypt presented the temple to the United States as a gift in recognition for providing $16 million towards the entire project. Former First Lady Jackie Kennedy accepted the gift on the behalf of the United States. Then, the National Foundation on the Arts and the Humanities created a commission to consider applications for institutions that would like to exhibit the temple. Apparently, the press at the time nicknamed the competition the Dendur Derby. Museums in Cairo, Illinois, Memphis, Tennessee thought they were the perfect for the job, pretty much simply because of their namesake, but unfortunately they were axed. The Smithsonian thought that they could actually put the temple on the banks of the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., and the MFA in Boston had a similar idea on the Charles River in Boston. Unfortunately, an outdoor environment was going to really hurt the soft sandstone of the temple because it was able to last forever in the very, very dry Egyptian weather, but any sort of humidity was going to take it down slowly. Finally, in 1967, Lyndon B. Johnson awarded the temple to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. Their indoor plan was perfect to try and replicate Egypt's high temperatures and dry climate. It was then packed in 661 crates and transported to New York City via freighter ship. It cost $9.5 million just to move the temple. This was funded by Lia Bell Wallace, who co-founded Reader's Digest. The new wing was added to the Met to accommodate this temple. It was originally called the Sackler Wing, though the Met recently changed it to Gallery 131 after the Sacklers' family association with the opioid crisis. The building and then the restoration of the temple took 3 whole years, and it opened to the public on September 27, 1978. I love this temple. It is one of my favorite parts to see in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I'll describe the first time that I ever saw this. I went to school outside of New York, and so I was going to the Met for a completely separate project, going to the Greek and Roman galleries, and I had to go into the Egyptian part. The way that you naturally walk around the Egyptian part, this is probably one of the last things that you're going to see if you go in kind of the right way or you go in chronologically. I remember that I was going through this room and I could hear people, I could hear echoes. I knew that there was a larger room in front of me. And to the immediate left of this room is a smaller gallery that has tons and tons of coffins and tons of small finds, which I love looking through because you tend to find the most amazing gems in just these huge small finds room, which the Met has a lot of. But you have this amazing straight line image of this temple. And I was like, oh, my breath was like taken away. And I said, no, I have to go into this room first, because if I go into this room, I'm never leaving. I'm not coming back to look at this small finds room. The most wild part was when I started to read about this temple, and I realized that I had just done a paper the semester before about working with memory and the memory of both the ancient Egyptians and the modern Nubians that essentially was ruined by the Aswan High Dam. And essentially that entire process to essentially make sure that the flood didn't come, it almost ruined this memory because some temples and some archaeological locations had to be flooded. Many modern settlements had to be flooded. So I wrote this whole long paper for my final paper about this because it was an English class about like memory and working with that. And I had absolutely no idea that at that time that this temple was in the museum, and I could have literally gone and seen it and included it in my paper. So hope you learned a little bit. I can talk about many of the other pieces that were saved. The really big ones are Abu Simbel, the 2 temples there. But there are several more, and I would love to read about some of the lesser known ones. These are the 2 that I know the most about.